Our next session is going to be with Prodigy Finance. I think one of the biggest factors of studying abroad is the finances you have to get. And that's what we are going to talk about. Okay, sounds good. I got Ryan here. I got Mayank here. Good morning, guys.
Hi.
Good
Hey,
evening,
Parth.
Mayank.
Hello.
Doing just fine. It's really exciting to have you guys here. Really exciting day two. Uh, just to give you a little bit background on day one, we had a blast on day one. We had fall 21 students talking about their first impressions of the US and how they are feeling and how everything's going on. And we talked about shortlisting universities, statement of purpose, letter of recommendation, the whole shebang of application process and how intimidating it can get. And it was a total blast. I personally loved the fall 21 session just to hear from current students. It's always helpful and it's always um, nice to refresh your memories on what it was like for you as well, because it's pretty much similar for a lot of students. Why not start with your introductions? Ryan, you go ahead, please introduce yourself, and then we can go to Mayank.
Sure. Thanks, Parth. So happy to be here. Thanks for having us. Hi, everybody who's on. My name's Ryan Corder. Obviously, work for Prodigy Finance. Excuse me. Coming to you from New York today, upstate, not the city, Rochester. For anybody who's interested in maybe RIT or U of R. Prior to joining Prodigy, I actually worked at Duke, Fuqua School of Business, UT Austin, and University at Buffalo. So my background is in working with international students. So it seemed like a natural transition to move to Prodigy, where I now actually work as a liaison to universities. Because we're an education lender, it's obviously very important that we work very closely with administrators to make sure that borrowers have the best and smoothest experience possible. So again, really happy to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Parth, for having us. It's really a pleasure. And in terms of my background, I've just been with Prodigy for almost 2 years now. I'm managing the India market, which obviously is one of our largest and fastest growing markets. Prior to Prodigy, I was basically dabbling around trying to build my own startup, which was in the consumer lending space. Spent some time there, didn't really fly, and then obviously came to Prodigy. But prior to that, I worked with Rocket Internet, the German venture capital firm. I was managing one of their portfolio companies for Asia Pacific region, and worked in Germany, worked in US, Singapore, did my MBA from IESC Business School, and basically IIT from BHU Varanasi back in 2004. So it's been quite a journey so far, and obviously enjoying my time at Prodigy quite a bit, interacting with guys such as yourselves, and it's really been a pleasure, and looking forward to this session as well.
Some people who decided not to go this year and they're planning to go next year, you guys might know that we did events last year in India pre-COVID, and Mayank was also there. It was a lot of fun. I still, if I go back and see some videos of it, it's always go back and look upon those memories. Um, Hopefully we can do something like that next year again if everything subsides.
Great. So thanks again, everybody, for being here. I'm just going to walk us through. Let's see if I can actually move that. Our agenda today. So Mayank and I are going to take the next about 25 to 30 minutes to introduce you to Prodigy, maybe give you a little bit of an explanation for why you should consider Prodigy to fund your studies, how our loan process works. So we'll get a little bit into the nitty gritty there, and what to consider when you're thinking about taking a loan. So there's a lot to factor into putting a budget together. And I'm sure you already know it's not a matter of just taking a large chunk of money. There's a lot of different elements that you want to do your research on, just like when you're picking your academic program. And then we're going to leave plenty of time for questions. And I think we actually have a current borrower who just started her studies this fall, who's joining us as well. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to, as I just kind of mentioned, state that funding is an important part of your program fit, and Prodigy is just one of your many options. So hopefully today you'll see that Prodigy offers a very unique product. We provide loans for international graduate students studying in residential programs without cosigner or collateral. So we're pretty sure we're kind of a niche fit in the market, but just like your academic program, you want to do your research and you want to make sure that you're picking a funding option that fits for you. And we'll talk throughout this session about how you determine what a best fit is. So who are we? Prodigy believes that funding should not be a barrier to education. That is the crux of what we do. That's our mission. And here's a little bit of a background why. So I think it's really important to share our funding story or our founding story, because our CEO and founder was himself an international student from South Africa. He had to defer his studies to INSEAD, which is an MBA program in France, because he was unable to find a cosigner for his loan. And he kind of took a step back from that experience, was obviously very disappointed, and said, this is kind of messed up. I know I'm going to be successful. I've been accepted into this incredible graduate program. Why wouldn't somebody want to invest in me? So happy ending to this story. He was eventually able to find funding and study for his MBA. And while he was there, he founded Prodigy and made it his mission to ensure that international students don't meet this barrier in the future. So when he created Prodigy, he established Prodigy under this model. It's a data model that essentially matches students to funding based on their risk potential. So we don't fund all schools ubiquitously. We are very intentional about picking the schools and the programs that we fund, because we know if you study in those programs, you will be successful. You'll be placed in a career where you'll be able to pay back your studies. So that's the foundation of how Prodigy works. And over the last 13 years, we're very proud to have funded over 20,000 international students across 800 schools, over $1 billion, and 133 nationalities. And you can see we're truly a global company. We have teams in India, in the US, in the UK, and South Africa. Everything that we're going to cover today is on our website, so I'll just kind of pull out a few highlights. I've already mentioned that Prodigy loans do not require a cosigner or collateral, so you don't have to bring in your family members or any property you might own into your loan experience. Everything is done 100% online, making it very accessible and very easy. You can choose your loan terms. So do you want to pay back in 7, 10, 15, or 20 years? And I think a really great key feature of our loans is that repayments only start 6 months after you finish your program. That's called a grace period. But if you do want to start your repayment prior to 6 months, there's actually no penalty for early repayment. So that's a really fantastic feature that I'd like to highlight. So one of the biggest questions we get is, what is the rate of interest? And unfortunately, the longer answer is that it is unique to you as the individual. We don't just have one interest rate that we give to every applicant. And that goes back to our risk model that we use. It factors in all kinds of data from your background, the school that you're going to, and I think it's really actually beneficial to you as an individual that the rate is based on you. So we have two components. It is a variable rate, but it's because of this variable base rate. So first we have the fixed margin. That's what's uniquely assessed to you as the borrower. And then the variable base rate is based on US LIBOR. And that's, of course, if you're studying in the US. Right now, it's at 0.13%, so very low and has consistently been low. So I know sometimes when you hear a variable rate, that's a little intimidating. You're imagining it's going to fluctuate. It's been very consistent. So let's say you're assessed at an 8.2%. That's your individual rate. That's not going to change through the life of your loan. And then you've got the variable rate, which is LIBOR, and that together is the 8.33%, just an example. And then this is on our website. It's just another example with the 5% administrative fee factored in. So that's not something that you have to pay separately prior to obtaining your loan. It's actually rolled into your total loan amount. So you pay that back just as you would your regular loan. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mayank, who's going to go into the nitty-gritty details of the loan product.
All right, thank you so much, Ryan, for this introduction and details. Let me talk about, let's say, the aspects of these, the finer ones. Hopefully, that will also answer some of the questions you guys are typing in already, but if not, we are obviously doing the Q&A at the end. So, few things to like get you started, right? What is the like criteria? So first thing you need to understand is that the minimum loan that we can provide as Prodigy has to be more than 15,000 US dollars. If for whatever reasons, let's say you have a huge scholarship that you have and that results in a smaller loan amount, which is coming out to be less than 15,000, then we cannot fund you. We will only fund you if it's more than 15,000. We fund up to 100% of the COA. Obviously, it depends on a variety of different conditions. You'll only find out once you apply the loan with us. So as of off the bat, we can't tell you because it depends on the course, the university that you're going, the region that you're going to study, and all of those factors. And then finally, moving forward towards like how does it actually work? How do you actually get started? So for that, our process is completely online. You have to go to our website. You have to start by basically clicking on the button which says sign in, basically sign up an account, register an account with Prodigy Finance. And once you're done with that, you can actually start a loan application. In case you want to talk to some ambassadors who are ex-Prodigy or current Prodigy borrowers, you can also do that over here in this prompt, which pops up on the website while you're navigating through it. Cool. And then coming to the eligibility check, very straightforward. I mean, the key factor that you need to understand is that you need to be obviously studying abroad. That has to be your goal. I mean, if you're an Indian student looking to study in India, then obviously Prodigy is not for you. Then you might need to go to a in-country lender. The second criteria for us is that you need to be going to a school and a course that we support. I know there are a lot of questions around like, what if a school or course is not being supported by Prodigy? In that case, what really happens is that you can request the school to Prodigy Finance. And if the school and course meets the criteria for Prodigy's eligibility, we will get them added. And that happens fairly fast for US-based schools. For, let's say, non-US schools, it tends up taking time. So if you are going to a school which is in US, if you see, let's say, the university is supported, but the course is not supported, you can actually request that, and then we can hopefully turn it around pretty fast. And then the third factor is that you need to be a citizen of a country that we support. And I think that shouldn't be a problem because we have a huge list of countries that we support, 100 plus out there. So by and large, you should be good to go. Moving on, how does the application work, right? So very straightforward, as I said earlier, fully online. You need to get started on our website, and then you need to apply for the loan, right? And then the loan application is designed to be easy and straightforward. Imagine it's like a set of questions that we ask you as part of the application process, and you just need to answer those questions truthfully. At this stage, you do not need to provide any documentation, right? We will just ask you some information. What's your nationality? What is the school that you're going for? What's the course? And all those kind of things, right? It's a step-by-step process. The process guides you, and you don't have to worry too much. Towards the end, there's a budget section which you need to be very careful about while filling, because that really determines what you are asking in terms of the loan and what do you already have, let's say, in terms of savings and all of that stuff. Right, so that is a section which might take a little bit of time, but every other like initial steps are pretty straightforward. So once you've done that, what happens is you can submit the application. All of this should take like 20 to 30 minutes at the maximum. And then in most cases, roughly 90% of the applications that get submitted, you instantly get a loan offer, which we also call a provisional offer, right? And then this provisional offer is basically all the detail about your loan. What is the rate of interest that is being offered to you? What is the amount that we are able to fund for you? What is the tenure, and all of those details, right? And then you can actually look at it. You can basically compare that offer with other lenders that might have given you a offer for a loan, right? And if you decide to choose Prodigy Finance as your lender, then you have to move forward and accept the offer, right? And once you accept the offer, what you do is you start the verification process, right? And verification is the process where you basically need to submit all your documents, right? Because up till now, we did not ask you to submit all the documents. This is now that you have to submit the documents. After you complete the verification, that's when we have a small matching process where we allocate funds to you. And then once you get matched, you basically straight off go to what we call loan approved. And then you have to just sit back and relax. We will send you the loan agreement a couple of weeks before your classes starts. And once you sign the dotted line, we will disperse the funds directly to the university. So that's roughly the process. We'll basically go into specific details around the documents now, right? What are the documents basically? So in terms of documents, again, very, very straightforward. There's nothing like, just a second, nothing complicated here. I mean, you have to basically establish your identity, right? Who you are. You can like think of documents such as passports, which are required. You have to establish your admission, that you have gotten an admission from a university, which is in the US or whatever. You have to establish proof of savings. If you have said in the application process that you have a scholarship, then you will be asked to provide a scholarship document as well, residency related details, proof of salary, and all of that stuff, right? Again, all of these details, as Ryan said, are available on our website. It's pretty straightforward. No rocket science here. It's just basic stuff that we are asking you, and all of this is online. Yeah, you don't have to visit any Prodigy branch as such and submit those documents. Everything is online. If you have any questions, you have a helpline or a support team that you can call us on, and then they will address all of your questions. So that's how it typically works. Moving forward, I think this I've already covered, but again, like a quick, like nice pictorial view about the entire process. You start the application, you get a provisional offer, then you basically accept the offer, you start the verification, then the matching happens. Post the matching, we basically send you the loan agreement, which if you sign, then you go for the disbursements. And then entire 2 years when you're studying, we do not ask you to pay back anything. You have to start the repayment 6 months after you graduate, so that you have sufficient time to settle down, find a job, move into the new city that you are having the job for, and then basically then you start repaying via our mobile app, which can be downloaded from Android and Google and Apple Play stores. Cool. So then, yeah, I mean, just as I said, like there's a mobile app. Repayment also is pretty straightforward. It starts 6 months after. The payment duration is also like pretty flexible, ranging from 7 to 20 years. We would make you a recommendation when we are suggesting in the offer that this is the tenure that we recommend. However, if you want to choose something different, that is also possible. So that there's a lot of flexibility in the offer in general. So that's basically about it. I hope I've answered a bunch of your questions that you guys are asking, but if not, we are still there. And finally, just a little bit touching upon the community that we have. These are some examples of our customers. You'll see a good variety, right? Like we have people coming from literally tier 2, tier 3 cities in India. We have people going for MBAs in top tier schools as well. We have people from Africa as well, which we have funded. So it's a very wide range of students that we offer funds to, and we believe in like really making financing borderless, right? That's our motto, and that's what we strive to live for. Cool. And then, yeah, we have the ambassador thing where you can connect with our current borrowers. This I've already talked about. This is available on our website. It will pop up automatically once you are there. so you don't have to look for it actively. It will be coming to you. And then these are a few of our social media channels where we are active. We have recently launched our what we call a study center, which is a repository of very interesting content pieces and let's say guides which you can follow. We have broken down them into 6 different, let's say, pillars which align very well with the journey of a student. So you can check that out. It's pretty interesting. We obviously keep on adding more and more content there. So yeah, that's definitely something we keep doing. So worth checking out. And then these are our contact details. I mean, everything available on the website, but just here for your reference. So I think that's pretty much it. And I think this one, Ryan, you can take up because you are here in this, so you can talk about it. Maybe.
Yeah, that's me down in the bottom at the University of Houston with some of our ambassadors. But I actually have added a couple of slides very quickly about kind of financial literacy and other considerations for your budget. And I've been taking notes while Mayank was speaking on some of your questions, which are fantastic, and roll into these last slides perfectly. So actually, first I'll just say, so we've already shared that Prodigy has been working with international students for over 13 years now. And I'll speak for myself and a lot of my colleagues, we were all international students at some point as well. So it's really important to us that we are more than just a lender. We really appreciate that you are not only taking a huge investment for your education, but this is life-changing. It's not just the loan, it's the whole experience, and we are with you every step of the way, and we want to make sure that you are empowered with the research to make the best decisions. So a couple of things I want to hit on here, which I've seen come up in the question. So first of all, our loans do cover tuition plus living expenses, fees, etc. We call that cost of attendance. So Mayank mentioned a budget in the application. That's going to go through everything. So here, and we actually have that established based on our knowledge from the school. And that's why we work so closely with schools. So let's say you're going to, I'll pick on Duke, you're going to the Fuqua School of Business. We know the tuition for an MBA program. We know generally how much it costs to live in Durham, North Carolina. We're going to populate that information in the budget. You put in how much you've been granted in a scholarship. You put in your proof of savings, which somebody else asked about. That's just you sharing your bank documents, your bank statements. So that's something that you want to think about as like a large piece of your budget. So of course it's tuition, it's living expenses, it's fees, but there are also program add-ons. So again, picking on MBA programs. There are a lot of different options that you can choose as a student to individualize your experience. So sometimes there's a 6-week international experience outside of the US where you go to South Africa and learn about business in Africa. So that can sometimes be an extra $1,000+ so those are things that you really want to do your research on before putting your budget together, because sometimes students get to campus and say, oh my gosh, I was not considering $10,000 when I put my budget together, and I'm in kind of a tough spot. Something else that's really important is thinking about internships. Such a huge part of any study program, and usually not going to be in your actual study location. So let's say you're studying in Dallas, Texas, but your internship is in San Francisco for the summer. That cost of living is going to be a huge difference. And you need to factor in traveling there for the summer, and maybe, hopefully your internship is paid, but it might not be. So how can you budget for that summer experience as well? Someone talked about exchange rates. So if you're studying in the US, your loan is going to be in USD. But if you plan to go back to your home country, if you plan to go back to India afterwards, you need to factor in a salary in India, paying back your loan in USD each month. So thinking about that ahead of time and planning out how that will work with your budget is really important. I had a really great chat once with a dean of the graduate school at University of Alabama, and he said so many international students don't think about transportation in some of these more rural areas of the US. So of course you're going to have public transportation in New York City or Atlanta or Boston, but not in most parts of Alabama or upstate New York. So think about maybe having to buy a bike or a car, or spending a little bit more money to live close to campus so it's convenient for you to get there. So those are all things that you need to factor into your budget as well. And then finally, if you have dependents that are coming with you as well, seems like a no-brainer, but just think about those additional costs. And it is something at Prodigy we've been really mindful of doing and building into our budgets as well. So a lot of students who are studying for their MBA already have families. So we can build that into the budget in many cases as well. I think there's one more question about credit score that I want to answer. So yes, paying back your Prodigy loan does increase your credit score in the US. So we actually report repayment to Experian. So that's a nice benefit. And then someone asked about credit history. We do require credit history on our application, but you don't have to have credit history. I know that sounds kind of confusing, but we essentially just need to see that you don't have credit history. So there's a great resource on our website under the FAQs that will explain how you pull your credit history when you don't actually have it. So really good questions coming in about financial literacy, and a huge part of this journey is thinking about all of those pieces. So this is an additional resource slide that I share with everybody. So you can see Gradicle is right on top always. Obviously, you know what Gradicle is. But here's some other resources as you're thinking about taking out a loan. It might be your first time ever taking out a loan. So read up a little bit more on financial literacy, about that decision-making process, and know that we're always here to help answer those questions as well. So at this point, that wraps up our formal presentation. I think we do have a Prodigy borrower here. Is she on?
But we can do some questions, and we can also, there's a lot of questions in the chat.
Yes. Maybe I'll just answer a few questions I wrote down as Justin was getting on. Someone asked about a PhD program. So I just want to clarify that at this point, unfortunately, we don't fund PhD programs. We don't say masters explicitly because we do fund some JD programs, some dental add-on programs, and obviously MBA, Masters of Business. So we try to keep it pretty open, but it is mostly 2 to 3 year programs, unfortunately not PhD. And that's just because of the model that I mentioned, kind of being able to predict career outcomes. PhDs, we're not sure how long that's going to take you. Sometimes it's 4 years, sometimes it's 7 years. We don't know if you're going to go into research. So at this point, unfortunately, no, we are not funding PhD programs. And great questions. Go ahead.
To add on to that, PhD programs in the US are usually funded by the professors or the department.
Right.
So if you're going for a PhD program and you have to pay for yourself, that might not be sustainable for you as well, even if you take a loan, from other lenders, because it's just best to have funding from the professors, because you're going to do research for them. And for 4 or 5 years, you will be getting a stipend as well, plus your admissions fees or your tuition fees will be covered for. I have a few questions here. Let me read it off for you. So if I had taken a loan of $40,000 and then if I get a scholarship or an on-campus job after my first semester, which waives off my tuition fee, then will that much amount of money be cut from my loan amount? I think what he means to say is, like, if he's getting a scholarship later on, let's say he has gotten a loan of 40,000 dispersed, but then he realized that he doesn't need that money. What happens in that case?
Yeah,
so see, the loan is always on the, amount outstanding, right? So you have to really think about it, like what's the loan that is outstanding at you on you at a particular point in time. Suppose you graduate, you get a job, you get paid a bonus, right? You can always come back to Prodigy, talk to us, call us or whatever, and then basically plan out an early return. And that could be $40,000, $30,000, whatever amount. We don't charge any fee for early return. And then once you return that amount, which is even whatever, $40,000, which you got from a scholarship or from a company bonus, your outstanding loan balance will get reduced, right? Suppose you have taken a loan of 50,000 and you return back 40,000, right? So your outstanding now remains 10,000 on which you will be charged the interest, right? So you have to always think about it from a outstanding loan perspective. The interest will always be calculated on the amount that is outstanding. So just keep that in mind and you'll be sorted.
All right. Before we go into questions, Josna is here. Josna is a Fall 21 Prodigy borrower. Hey, Josna, how are you doing?
Hi, Parth. Am I audible,
Yes.
first of all?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the inconvenience.
No,
I'm
no, no,
having a
no, no,
glitch
no.
at
You're
my end.
completely fine. Again, I appreciate it and sorry about the misunderstanding from my side. Uh,
Oh, no
Thanks for
problem.
joining in. We got Ryan and we got Mayank from Prodigy Finance. We wanted to hear like how how was your experience with Prodigy Finance and how was that with Fall 21? And once you came, how was your disbursement process looks like?
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. So I'm Josna. I'm currently a grad student at UMBC for MSIS in specialization in data science and artificial intelligence. And I did take a loan from Prodigy. It actually happened to be towards the end. So I'll just tell my story what happened to me exactly. So I thought of going for a non-collateral loan, although I had a collateral and house and everything, but I did not want to trouble my parents and I wanted to be completely independent. So I was looking for my options and I kind of like shortlisted HDFC Credila, Incred, and of course Prodigy. But I got to know that Prodigy is a little difficult to get, is what I had a myth in my head. And I ended up applying for Prodigy about mid of May. And after applying for Prodigy, I just got the code in about like 20 minutes when I applied online. I watched one of the videos by Parth on YouTube, and I think it quoted me around $30,000 they were willing to give me, and for about just 8.3 percent interest rate. And I had other couple of offers as well. So I had one from HDFC Credila for about 11%, and I had Incred for 12%, Avance for 11%. I did not go for SBI because I didn't want to go get into any collateral and stuff like that. So I had these three, and then I had Prodigy, and Prodigy was offering me one of the best interest rates. So after talking to a lot of people, I got to know that Prodigy is one of the most authentic, and they had like great reviews compared to the other ones. And my personal experience with Avance was not good because they were not prompt with responding, and they had a lot of hidden charges, which I ended up seeing in the agreement. So finally, I did opt for Prodigy, and I'm very happy that I chose Prodigy because it's been very, very hassle free, right from application to getting my funds matched and to getting my loan disbursed. It has been very smooth. They just disburse the amount at the time that they mention. They put a date on the agreement, and they are just very punctual about it, and it's very hassle free. And I'm very happy about opting for Prodigy.
Just not,
That
thank you so much for sharing that. If you don't mind, I'd love to ask you a few questions based on what we're seeing coming through. There are a lot of students asking about using Prodigy's loan amount for obtaining your I-20. Can you share a little bit about that process and and using Prodigy funds for the I-20 and the visa process?
So actually, because I told you I ended up applying for Prodigy pretty late, so I had my savings and my father's savings, so that was sufficient for me to get my I-20. So I did not really use any loan letter from any uh, uh, banks or any of those stuff. So I really did not use Prodigy loan letter for my I-20. And for my visa, yes, I did use Prodigy. My visa interview was about July end, and I did have my Prodigy a loan
Right.
letter by then, so
And
I did
just to
use it for
answer for
that.
everybody that's asking about that, we do issue what's called a loan confirmation letter once your loan is approved, and that's what you can use with your school for the I-20. And for the, of course, you need your I-20 for the visa process as well. So great questions on that coming through. And then Jasna, can you talk a little bit about the funds being dispersed to your school and then how your school may be separated out if you did take some living expenses that were factored in there, how they took your tuition and then were able to disperse your living expenses to you?
Yes. So basically, I got my funds matched on the first week of July, and immediately after that, I guess you guys send some certification to the university to get it certified, and they just reverted back in a matter of a week. And I guess the date mentioned in my agreement was, I think, 9th of September was the disbursement date, and on the very same date, the funds were sent to the university, and it was sent in two batches. So my total amount for the first year that was given to me was $30,000, but $15,000 was sent for the first semester, and the next 15 will be sent on the upcoming semester, which would be in the month of January. And my tuition fee for the first sem is just about $11,000. So I will have $4,000 as my living expenses. That would cover my living expenses. So that was also obviously sent to the university, and they would give me refund. So I've already gotten my refund. I just got the refund in matter of like a week's time after requesting my university, and that's actually very great because I have my experience here. Like for example, I've seen a lot of students here, my classmates and everyone. They came about like end of August, and it's so difficult to find on-campus job. So a lot of people don't have on-campus job, and they get so worried to kind of remove the money from loan amount. And just because Prodigy is also giving you extra money for your expenses, it's a lot more easier. Thankfully, I didn't have to. I have two on-campus jobs, and that's because I had my SSN many years ago. I had come to US for my work, and people who don't have SSN here, they have to like wait for the appointments, and no employer in the campus is willing to give you a offer letter or anything without an SSN. I mean, if they give you also, you have to find an appointment, get an SSN, and then join the work. So if you don't have SSN, you don't have a shot of getting on campus job. In that case, people are so they're so panicked that they end up doing off campus, which is very illegal here. So that way, I think Prodigy is very nice because they do give you money for your living expenses apart from your tuition fees. So yeah, that's been great. So
Thank
thanks for
you for
that.
sharing that experience. And that's one of the points that we were talking about before you joined was some of these kind of hidden fees that you don't think of when you're building your budget out. So not being able to get a job on campus. Are there any things that have been surprising to you in Baltimore that you might not have factored into your budget, like getting around, transportation, living close to campus? For better or for worse, has it been more expensive or less expensive than you were anticipating?
Honestly, Baltimore is kind of not that expensive. The living is pretty good, and we have like transport by university for like to take us and pick up us there. And I'm also a math tutor in one of the Baltimore schools, and the pay is pretty good. And again, we have all the expenses covered by the university itself. Uh, but yeah, we have like a lot of events and activities that happen in the university, like too many things going on. So they do add a lot of all of these event charges which keeps coming to you, and you'll be like, oh my god, what is this extra cost coming on my way? So that way, I think when you have Prodigy giving you a lot of more, a couple of extra dollars for your living expenses, you can just pick up like $500 and pay it off. I just saw my yesterday portal, and I just was charged like $125 for some event, and I'm like, how is this coming up on my portal? So that happens. These are small surprises that usually happen, but that's, I think, a part and parcel of grad student journey. But if you have like funds with you in your hand, it's obviously great. So I like the idea of Prodigy giving money for living expenses, because trust me, it's not very easy to get on campus if you end up coming late to the university. And this year we had like a delay in visa interviews, so a lot of people kind of got the visa very late, and they had to come also very late. So the later you come, then you don't find on campus jobs. So having extra bucks with you is
Thank
great.
you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Josna. That's awesome. We might have a few more questions for you here and there. I wanted to quickly pitch in. We have put in the link for getting a free code on. You can go on Prodigy website right now. If you'll see on the left bottom, you can get a free code. Even if you don't have an admission right now, you can apply for a PF loan and see how much APR you might be able to get or what quote you're getting. So yeah, that might be an interesting practice for you to do right now um, for next year. Right.
So I'm seeing a lot of questions about interest rates and how much you're actually offered. So I want to be very careful to say that Prodigy is a responsible lender. So just because you ask for a certain amount does not mean that we are going to issue that amount. And that's not because we want to be mean. We obviously want to help you as much as possible, but in helping you, that's also determining what we think is affordable for you. So when we ask questions on our application, it factors in how much debt you're already carrying. So that doesn't mean we can't lend to you if you already have undergraduate loans, but we factor those into the loan amount that you're asking for as well. We want to make sure that we're setting you up for success. We don't want you to be in a situation where you graduate from your program and you're not able to pay back the amount of loan because you had existing debt before and you just added on top of it. So there are a lot of factors like that that go into consideration for the amount that we're going to offer you and the rate that we're going to offer you. So the more that you can provide us about scholarship amounts, about savings, that's going to be really helpful as well. So that's just a little bit more on the nuances that go into the rates. And I don't know, Mayank, if you want to elaborate on that a
So
little
I think
bit.
related to the rate, also the topic about the admin fee, right? There were a couple of questions around the admin fee that Prodigy Finance charges. So I think I'd like to just add on that. It's obviously looks to be high at a 5%, but then you have to be aware that like that's the only fee that we charge, right? And it's fully transparent. We are regulated by the FCA, which is the Financial Conduct Authority of the UK, the main regulator. So they mandate us to disclose all our charges upfront, right? In India, if you compare it with the Indian banks and the Indian NBFCs, the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, does not mandate them to disclose the APR. And that's why, as Josna was also mentioning, the charges are always there in the fine print, right? So if you read the document very carefully, if you find it out yourself, then good. Otherwise, you might be just caught napping, right? When you, let's say, go ahead and say that, oh, I've got a scholarship now, or I've got a bonus from the job and I want to make a repayment, they will basically tell you that, hey, why don't you pay some like early repayment fees, right? So there are a lot of charges with other lenders and Indian banks which will come along the way, right? The one which is certain to happen is the FX related charges, right? So every transaction that you have to do from INR to US dollar, it's roughly 1 point something percentage points, right? So that's also a cost. So ultimately, even if you are on paper looking at a 1%, 1.5% being charged from other lenders, if you add it up over the lifetime of the loan, it will end up getting much more expensive, right? And then the interesting thing is that they will not tell you that upfront. With in case of Prodigy or any respectable international borrower, we have to disclose it because it's obviously our ethos not to sort of defraud anybody, and also like from a mandate perspective, we have to disclose that. Right, so you have to keep those nuances in mind.
And one of the students raised this question like, hey, if we take out a loan, do we have to provide some margin, like a percentage of the loan? Is that the concept with Prodigy as well?
You are able to showcase the entire COA, right? That's basically what is needed. So like if your cost of attendance is $100,000, then in your budget section, when you're filling it, you have to show that you are able to support that 100,000, which could be constituted by multiple different factors, right? One part of it could be the loan, the other could be your scholarship, the third could be, let's say, your personal savings, right? And all of that needs to add up to come to total to the COA. So that's what it is. I mean, we do not require a collateral. We do not require a cosigner. And because there is no cosigner, which typically are the parents, there is no tax benefit that goes to them as well, right? So this is always another question which comes out very prominently. What's the tax benefit? But like in our case, it's not really applicable because it's you who is taking the loan as a student, and you are signing the loan agreement, right? And once you go to the US, you can obviously show in your tax documents that there is a loan that you're running, and you might get some tax benefit out of it, which may depend upon your state or your jurisdiction that you are in.
So there is a tax benefit. I just like to add, there is not a tax benefit if you have an Indian loan, but there's a tax benefit if you have a US loan, or if you have a loan in US dollars, and that's around $2,500 a year. So you don't have to pay, like you get a tax refund. And I haven't like really read into the deets because I have an Indian loan myself, for whatever reasoning like back then. But I'm paying tens of thousands of dollars every year. You know, I would like to get the tax benefits, but because now I'm in that NRI category, I don't get that benefit. I already pay taxes on that money here, then I send it back. It's a whole deal. But if you have a US dollar loan, you can get that tax benefit here. You'll have to consult with a tax officer or a tax return person here, but that is quite possible.
Yeah, and it will, I'll just say, it will depend a little bit on the size of your loan. So it might not be 2,500, but we'll actually issue you an interest statement, how much you've paid over the year in interest. You take that to your tax advisor or whatever form that you're filling out and input that information, and then it will be calculated into your tax returns. But absolutely, that is.
There are some questions about fall 22 classes opening. So that's going to happen somewhere in December. So you'll have to wait a little bit. But yeah, as soon as that happens in December, you can start applying. And there was also a question about matching. So matching in the next season will be weekly. So that's the good news. So you won't have to like wait. I mean, we might delay a little bit just to sort of allow some time to build a pool of applications. But yeah, technically speaking, by and large, it will be all weekly. So there won't be like a massive wait that might have happened earlier.
And for spring 22, are the applications open already?
Going very, very strong. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. So if anybody is going for spring 22, you should get a quote and go from there. For fall 22, you can you still get a quote as a fall 22?
Not yet. That'll be somewhere around mid-December. It'll open. Yeah.
So can they still create an account and get like an estimate?
They can create an account, but not beyond that. They can start an application, but then they'll not see classes for fall 2022 open yet. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. Can I answer the questions on which schools
Absolutely.
we fund? Okay, so I saw a lot about which schools we actually fund. So there are over 800 schools and over, I think, 2,000 actual programs that we support. So if you go onto our website and then click up at the top, student loans, you'll see right in the middle of the page a search bar. And Mayank, I'll just give him a kudos, has been working very hard to make this experience in the search as streamlined and easy as possible. So new and improved search tool for finding your school. So if you're interested in going to Purdue, you just type in Purdue. You could probably just do PU, and all of the different schools within the university will pop up. And then you click into the School of Engineering and you'll see the actual courses on that page. So that's one way to search. You can also just click on a whole list that's broken down by field of study. So if you know that you want to study in the US for engineering, but you're not sure which school you're interested in, you're basing it off of where we can fund, you'll see a long list of schools where we fund engineering programs, and then you can break it down by region, the US or Canada, if you're interested in going there as well. So just pop on our website and you can search for all of the options. And if you don't see the school or course that you're interested in, there is a form that you can populate to indicate to us that you would like it to be considered for funding. Just because it's being entered doesn't mean that we will be able to fund that course. Like I shared in the beginning, we're very particular and diligent in doing our research to make sure that it is a program that we can support. But we certainly take those seriously. That's something that I work on very closely, is going through those requests and then doing the research and investigating if we can add them. So if you're thinking about studying for the spring and we don't have a program you can support, certainly fill that out, but be very careful because there's only a couple of months until spring studies start. We might not be able to fund you in the spring, but it's a possibility that we could fund that program for the fall. So just keep that in mind as you're planning everything out. We do fund masters in Canada as well.
One question which just came in was like, do you only fund STEM courses?
Nope. So we fund MBA, STEM, so that's, as you all know, engineering, sciences, so chemistry, physics, etc. And this is all clear on our website as well. Law, so LLM programs, or if you want to study your JD, public health and public policy, and then I think I have them all in my own. Don't think I'm missing any. So it's pretty comprehensive. Psychology, unfortunately, at this time, we cannot support. So kind of those social sciences, we're not yet funding, but we're continuously hoping to expand our funding. So hopefully in the future, we will be able to.
There's a good question about, what are the factors taken under consideration for full funding? Or like when a student is applying on the website, what factors do you guys look at to determine if we should fund them or not? Or how much funding should we give them?
Yeah, I'm just plugging in my power. Give me a second.
Mayank, do you want
But
to take
yeah, I
that
mean,
one?
that's a great question. Like ultimately, it all boils down to like your budget section and all the details that you sort of provide, right? And then overall, we have like over 100 different factors that we consider while making a decision. So there's no linearity that we can say that, hey, these are the 5 things that you need to provide us and we will give you so much money. I mean, it's similar to your business school application or your university application where you have to just make a best possible case, right? That's what it is ultimately. I mean, you provide all information truthfully, honestly, and then you can basically hope to get the best possible offer from our side. As obviously a lender, we also intend to give you a loan, and that to the highest possible loan, right? I mean, for us, that's really the business. So if we think that your case, your data that you're providing is great, then we'll obviously fund you appropriately. So that's what it is. So just be truthful and honest in terms of what you're filling in, and you should be good.
That's awesome. One more question which came in was that let's say somebody's already studying in the US and they want to take a loan then because they realize that they don't have enough funds. Is that possible?
So it depends on a couple of factors. It's a great question. And this is also going to be clear on our website. So I can't say yes across the board. It depends on the state that you're in and how long you've been here. So if you've been for less than a year, then absolutely go ahead and apply for your second year loan. So I think maybe the first part of the question is if you've studied for a year and you want a second year loan, the answer is generally yes, you can. Then it's going to depend on how long you've been in the US already. Do you still have, or have you gained residential status because you've been in that state for over a year? And then there are a good handful of states that we actually can fund you even if you have achieved that residential status. And that list is going to be on our website under eligibility. So you can factor all of those elements in.
Awesome. One of the students already has a home loan in India and he wants to take an education loan. Mike, maybe you can elaborate if that's easy to get or if that's going to hinder with his application.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one. Right? I can't like give a answer of a yes or no. Best would be that the student goes there and applies and tries on his or her own, and they will get an accurate answer, right? But like obviously having a lot of debt on your hand can affect basically what you are being offered, right? I mean, depending on the amount that you owe as part of the home loan, the decision would also be a no, right? Because like as Ryan was mentioning earlier, we are a very responsible lender. So ultimately, we don't want to put the student in a situation where when they graduate, they have 2 massive debts on their head and they can't repay either of them, right? So that's obviously a bad outcome, and we don't want to put anybody in that kind of a situation. So we will look at those factors, and obviously, as I said earlier, we do want to fund you, but then we do it very responsibly.
I think that's that's great. It's a great question and great information to have on hand. And this is why it's important to get that initial quote, that provisional offer early before you get too deep into your application, because it might help with your decision making with your programs. So maybe you were interested in studying in New York City at a private school, which is going to be extremely expensive. But you know, based on your research with loans from Prodigy, from Gradicle, wherever, that you can only expect to be to receive about $30,000. So you know that you have that chunk of money to work with, and then you can kind of tailor your applications around that. Maybe you find a state school, which is a little less expensive in a more affordable area. We certainly want to help you go to your dream school and achieve your dreams, but we also want to do that responsibly. And we also want to be a part of that conversation, helping you figure out other programs that are a little bit more affordable for your circumstances, but also are incredible degrees. Of course, every school that Prodigy supports and funds is an amazing program. We know you're going to be successful. So getting that quote early is just going to help you along the way for your applications and your research. I see a question right here about dual master degrees programs. So those are actually going to be listed right there with all of the programs that we fund. And yes, not across the board, but I can say Duke, for example, if you're doing an MBA and an MPH, a Master in Public Health or Public Policy, that's one of the dual degree programs that we fund. Sometimes an MBA JD we can fund. So I can't say every single one, but the short answer is yes. You'll just have to do some research on our website to see which ones.
Do we have any questions for Josna as well from Ryan and you guys? Josna is on her job right now. So if you don't have any questions, Josna, you can take off. But unless Mike and Ryan has any questions for you.
I don't think so. Thanks for joining us. Very thorough background and information. So we really appreciate it. And good luck with the rest of your studies.
Thank you so much. I just saw someone asking me a question about SSN. I think, Darshini, you can't apply for SSN from India. You have to have an offer letter from your on-campus job once you're a student here in the US. So you'll have to come to the US first as a student and then find an offer letter and then
there is a
apply for
video
a
which I
SSN and get a
recently made.
SSN.
You can check that out on the channel. It lays out everything about like social security number and how to get it and what you need to do. But thanks, Josna. Appreciate your help.
And also, I would like to say thanks to Prodigy team. I think you guys are doing a great job. I personally did not want to involve my father or anybody for my masters, and I always wanted to do everything by myself. And you guys are giving opportunity to students to have no cosigner, no collateral loans, and it's very hassle free. And I'm finding it very convenient. So thank you for your service.
I'm seeing a lot of questions about the GREs and some of those test scores. So we do take them into consideration. If you don't have a GRE, that's okay too. It's not a required part of the application. So if you've taken them, certainly share your scores. But if not, that's not an issue at all.
Let's start step one with regards to fall 2020. So fall 2020 applications will open in mid-December, and it is encouraged that you start as early as possible so that you get the loan out of your way. So short answer is just like December mid, around that time frame is the earliest that you can start the step one.
I don't know if there's a particular question. I think I'm just flipping back through the slides. There are so many different ways to get in touch with us. So as Mayank said, I think first and foremost, register on the website. So even if you're thinking about fall 2022 and you can't start your application, you can still register your information. So that's just your name and your email. And so we'll send you information. We'll send you other opportunities for webinars. You can play around on our website. It will give you access to chatting directly with our customer support team. It will also give you access to chatting with ambassadors and with current students, and then you can kind of break it down. If you want to speak to an Indian student studying in the U.S. for engineering, you can whittle that down as well. So I think first step is just registering on our website, and then you'll just continue to be brought into the conversation, and you can ask more questions there. So certainly, we've really appreciated all your questions. This is not your only opportunity to ask us as things come up. So keep in touch, follow us on social media, chat with us through these different avenues, and we're really excited to be a part of your study journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and share what you guys are doing. Thank you so much for what you're doing. It makes a lot of difference in people's lives when they don't have to involve their parents, and it's good that they're independent. Like especially Josna, what she was saying, that she didn't wanted her father to be involved at all, and I think that's the mentality of a lot of students. Like, why burden their parents when they can do everything by themselves? So that's awesome.
Thank you so much, Parth. It was lovely chatting, and
thanks a lot.
Hopefully helpful.
Thanks, Parth.
Yeah.